YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back after Sunday's games here in NFL Week 4, giving you my takeaways, a little bit of recap here. Actually going to be a couple games here on Monday night tonight. You're going to want to follow our Twitter. I'll be live tweeting through both of those. At one point, they'll be going on at the same time. So we'll be talking about both those games. So you're going to want to follow that Twitter. Always live tweeting games, always talking about football, giving you my thoughts. Link down below for that. But for this video, recapping every single game pretty much. I saw, more snaps of some games compared to others. So I'll give you my takeaways like we usually do here. Do this video every single Monday. And we have predictions, score predictions, power rankings, plenty more here at the Goat House. So please subscribe. Trying to reach 60K would be much appreciated if you guys can subscribe if you haven't already. If you already do, we appreciate you very much. We have an Instagram, podcast, Patreon. Before we get started, really quick, we have, the Patreon has a bunch of extra content, junior score predictions, my locks of the week, and we got 3 weeks straight with those locks being pretty darn accurate, so really happy with those. Couch ball score predictions. Updated playoff predictions will start very soon here, and then we'll keep updating those throughout the week there, and we'll predict round by round, so that should be pretty fun. It's a little early right now to start those, but we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. Bonus content videos, Discord access, some draft content will be added along the way as well, especially in the offseason if you're part of that Patreon. But Bears and Colts, really this shouldn't be the first game we're talking about because this game got moved back to the afternoon, but it's really not a big deal here. The Colts, man, that defense is looking really good. Very impressive. I don't know if there's a more impressive, unit, I guess, side of the ball than maybe the Colts defense right now. Let me give you my thoughts, kind of my headline, my takeaway right off the bat for this game. Honestly, kind of a boring game, not too much offense, kind of some sloppy offense. To me, Foles and Rivers, I'm not a big stats guy. I don't know what the stats will say. Probably that Foles had a little more yards, actually. But Foles and Rivers played roughly the same game. They were off target. Foles didn't really get some help from his receivers. They had some drops. Anthony Miller, Allen Robinson, one that some people thought could have been a fumble, but I think it was the right call. But besides the point anyways, we had some drops there. Other the rookie Darnell Mooney, I liked him pre-draft. I like what I see from him, but some drops there for Foles. But I think Rivers and Foles roughly played the same game, which wasn't good. Neither played a good game, off target on some throws. At the end of the day, there wasn't enough offense from either team in this game. At the end of the day, this is the wild part, the better defense won on this specific day. Which one will be the better defense when it's all said and done at the end of the year? It could be different. Could be. It's a maybe. But the better defense won this game, and that was the difference. And that's wild to think about, going into this game. Did people really, besides maybe Colts fans, did you really think the Colts defense was really that, better than the Bears? And that's kind of wild to think about. But the better defense won this defensive battle. That was the difference. But it was a lot of poor offensive play. And, I'm not putting that on the Bears defense. The Colts defense just happened to be better in this game, in which both defenses played pretty darn well and affected the other quarterback. But just not enough offense from either team, but the Colts get the job done. Another week where the offense can kind of take it easy, and maybe they didn't give it everything they got because how well the defense was playing the special teams once again. So that's kind of 3 weeks in a row like that. Really looking forward to Colts-Browns next week. Two teams that might be surprisingly better than we expected, or at least I expected. So that's going to be a really good game. Defense versus offense, so I'm excited about that. But yeah, just really disappointed in Matt Nagy in this game. I expected more creativity. The year they went in 2018, the year they were very good. I thought there was more to Nagy's playbook, and then Trubisky kind of just struggled to grow, with some of those concepts, really, and that's kind of what set them back and forced them to run a lot of screen passes and really limit the playbook. So now Foles coming in, against the Falcons and lighting up. We see a lot of different things from Foles. But then, now we kind of look back, the Falcons might have the worst defense in football. And now, first game starting against a really good defense here in the Colts. He struggled quite a bit, and Matt Nagy sure didn't help him. There really wasn't creativity to this offense. Yeah, missing Tree Cohen at this point. Waking up this morning, I'm realizing, Cohen was out. That was actually a crucial loss for them. Montgomery couldn't. There's just nothing. I talked about this before the year. There's nothing that you fear with the Bears offense. You got some teams that, you got to worry about the run game, and that opens with the passing game. Or you got some teams that you worry about the passing game. They got some good players here and there, and they can make some noise for sure. They're 3-1, still a good record, but nobody's, Colts defense, a defense like that, who the Bears haven't seen yet, really isn't going to fear a specific thing on the Bears offense, especially with Cohen out of the game. Robinson's obviously a really good player, but there isn't a specific, part of the Bears offense, run game, pass game that, really it doesn't have them on their toes. Doesn't really have them guessing. They're just out there playing defense. And where I have to credit the Colts defense, these players are playing very, very well. This defense is definitely playing better than expected. And you do go back and you look at where they're playing, which games they're really impressive in. And you do look Vikings, Jets, Bears, look at those offenses, and you may question it a little bit. You may play it down a little bit. Well, actually, the Vikings have been scoring some points, actually, so maybe it's just the Colts defense is really good. But bottom line is, I don't care who they played. They're playing really good football, and where I respect it and where they stand out the most, which I don't know if people are – I don't know, maybe they are, but, I don't know if people are talking about this. I think the big reason they're playing really good is they're playing as a team. They're really sound. They're well-disciplined. Somebody gets the ball, the whole defense flies to the ball, gang tackles. I'm not seeing really any of that in the NFL, right now. I'm seeing sloppy defense on that part. So credit to coaching staff, well-disciplined, well-prepared, a bunch of guys that just want to play football. That's what I see out there. So very tight in coverage. Gang tackling, really not making mistakes. Nobody's really missing assignments. So that is where you have to credit the Colts and mainly their coaching staff there. So I'm impressed with that. But yeah, not a lot of offense in this game. Bears couldn't really get. The Colts didn't really have to get things going, I suppose. So another week like that. So I do want to see a game where the stock is up on the Colts defense. I'm believing in that. Statistically, it might be up there, number one. I still think the Steelers definitely have a much better defense. So, that's a different debate. But the Colts defense, very much impressive. Stock up there, going through the rest of the year. Offense, I definitely want to see them. How will they be against another team? They're going to prove a lot this week against the Colts, or against the Colts, against the Browns. That's going to be a really good game. Both teams that are, maybe a better than what doubters thought, have something to prove in a true test game against each other. So that's why I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, Colts defense lights out. The Bears just not enough there. There's just not enough creativity from the offense like I expected. Foles was kind of off the mark. His receivers didn't help him with some drops. I think he looked lights out against the Falcons last week, but you see the difference between the Falcons defense and the Colts defense. I guess in general, you look at the difference in defenses that offense had to go up against, that Nagy had to go up against, these playmakers they had to go up against, Lions, Giants, Falcons, now Colts. So a little bit of an adjustment. And I kind of go back to what I was saying in the offseason that I wish Foles would start week one. And I did actually predict the Bears to do better when I thought he was starting week one compared to me thinking he's going to get thrown in weeks 3 through 5 range would end up being accurate. I had quite the difference in my thinking of how the Bears would be, and that's because, Nick Foles still needs to get his groove going, still needs to get just get into the playbook a little more. So I think Foles and the Bears would have been much better in this game if he started week one. So I still think that was a really, really big mistake. I think Nagy and Pace really aren't on the same page. But yeah, a lot of things just need to be better. Bottom line, the play calling, Foles needs to be better. The receivers can be better. There's been a lot of drops. Even the Falcons game last week. So that's not good. I am impressed with Mooney though, but obviously not a guy that's going to take over the game quite yet. But even like a conversion on a 4th and 2 only because of a PI, it was the right call. But a bomb to David Montgomery. I don't know if that was designed. It almost looked like it was designed, or Foles just made up his mind instantly. So I question things like that. We'll see. They got a tough game Thursday against the Buccaneers, so we'll see. Very impressed with the Colts defense here. Can't wait for that Browns game. Next game, Jags, Bengals. Everything kind of went to as expected in this game for what I kind of planned for. Actually, even more impressed. The Bengals, I think, dominated this game more than I thought they would. The final scoreline, 33-25, doesn't really show what went on in this game. The Bengals dominated this game. To me, it really wasn't close. The Jaguars did have a chance at the end. Credit to them for pushing back. But, yeah, the Bengals outplayed them the whole game here for the most part. It kind of went into, it's just the Jaguars, what we thought before the season and what we thought coming in. Some people kind of got fooled by the first 2 weeks. We've been talking about this last couple weeks. It was tough to game plan for that offense the first couple weeks. Now teams know how to game plan for them. On top of that, the Bengals defense was actually a pretty good matchup for the Jaguars offense, honestly. But I knew the Bengals would game plan correctly because it's not hard to game plan against that small ball offense. You just run a little bit more man there. Keep guys, keep it tight coverage. Make Minshew make plays. And DJ Chark made plays, but yeah, they just don't have enough offense or defense. The game plan on offense has to be simplified so much because of Minshew. They need more. They need more at the quarterback position. They need more everywhere else. I mean, he had 180 yards or whatever. So through into the fourth quarter, he ended up spicing that up a little bit at the end. But you're just not going to win ball games like that, especially when it's a pretty decent matchup for you against the Bengals. And you're still kind of struggling. The defense really struggled though. I mean, the game kind of went to as expected for me. I talked about that the problem for the Bengals offense was letting pressure in on Burrow and he's been playing good, but making his job harder. But the major problem was interior pressure, which is maybe the most important thing in football. I've been talking about that for some years. I feel like nobody's been talking about that. Interior pressure is game changing. It is the quickest trip to the quarterback. It'll force him to do things he doesn't want to do, and it'll also help the edge rushers as well. It makes their job easier because the quarterback may run into those players or get in that area. And the Jaguars, and that was kind of my game plan. That was kind of the matchup. The Jaguars don't have interior pressure. Burrow will have more time to throw, won't be rushed from the inside that quickly, and that ended up being the case here. And the Jaguars got some pretty good edge rushers, but they needed some help. When you have zero pass rush from the interior, those guys don't get any help. Yeah, the guys on the outside should play a little better. Credit to the Bengals offensive line. They did their job regardless who they played. They did their job here. Burrow was able to play well. There was some turnovers there, but that one Myles Jack with that interception in the end zone, that was just a big-time play for him. I thought Myles Jack stood out on the defensive side. DJ Chark's a beast. Really smooth route runner, really fast, lengthy, got the hands. I feel like he's gotten lengthier since coming into the league. The way he moves and the way he plays a little bit reminds me of a much lengthier Stephon Diggs. We're not going to call him Stephon Diggs, that talent, quite yet. But DJ Chark, if he had a better system, better quarterback, he'd be known as easily a top 15 receiver, maybe better. He's that good. So good to see him balling out. That's a guy that kind of keeps them scoring, even though I don't think even the points don't really show that. This game really wasn't that close. But DJ Chark kind of keeps them alive in there because how good he can play. I like Shenault as well. But yeah, all around, both sides of the ball, not a good game for the Jaguars. Mixon finally got going. I think in fantasy video this last week, people asked if they should start Mixon. I think we were kind of feeling Mixon would go off this week, so not that off though. So he really went off, so that was good. But early in this game, I talked about the Myles Jack, that strip interception. That was a huge play, crazy athletic play, crazy talented play there. Myles Jack's a talented dude. But before that, they were handing the ball to Mixon to try to get in, and he should get in on those plays. There's no offensive line excuse there. It felt like, and yeah, it's one thing, you see running backs try to just reach and do these stupid, they put the ball out for grabs, and he didn't want to do that, but it was kind of like, I'm going to run until I'm taken down, next play. Same thing. So I was kind of knocking him a bit for that. And after that, they were getting him the ball outside, which I was calling for, and he was electric, and the Jaguars could not stop them. They're just, and I talked about that. The defense just isn't fast enough for a team like the Bengals offense, and they don't have enough interior pressure. They don't have the tackling ability on top of even getting the right angles to make the tackle on a guy like Joe Mixon. Tyler Boyd, again, you see, I think, I don't really track stats. Some of them I happen to see, and they can be impressive, and they do mean something, but I'm not a big stats guy. So I don't know what Boyd finished with, but to me, I thought he played good, catching the ball in traffic in crucial moments. That's what Boyd does. That's what he will be for Burrow. I know A.J. Green, we didn't see much of him. I question, I guess the franchise tag for him, because I think they have other weapons there. But, they use those weapons they're able to. So, and on defense, my guy Jesse Bates, I've been hyping him up since Wake Forest. I thought he was all over the field. I think Jesse Bates kind of is this Bengals defense at times. So, it's good to see that. So, that's a good first win for the Bengals there. The Jags kind of, again, said it last week, kind of who they are who we thought they were, but that's okay because they got a bunch of draft picks and they're a team of the future. You just couldn't expect them to continue to go off that Week 1 performance. What a game this was. The Browns and the Cowboys. We talked about who would score first, would probably win this game. Thought it would be the Cowboys. The Browns come out. They get a stop. That was huge. Kind of will go unnoticed, untalked about. That defense, even though the Cowboys offense ended up with 38 points, the Browns defense making that first stop on that first drive, and then the Browns impressed with Stefanski there, pulling out some trickery. He knew that it was very important that they get that first score. And it's not that he didn't trust Baker or Nick Chubb, those guys to go score in that first drive. It's just go score. Do what you got to do to go score. And I appreciate that. I respect that so much. A little trickery. Jarvis Landry to his college teammate and NFL teammate, obviously, Odell Beckham. And OBJ, by the way, playing like vintage OBJ. You love to see that. The athleticism, the big playability is there. You love to see it. So love that play call. Love the start to score there. And then it's kind of just back and forth at this point. And it felt like it was going to be back and forth pretty much for the whole game. As we get to around 14 points, when the Cowboys get 14 on the board. But then it just changed. Again, even though the Cowboys scored 38 points, you do have to credit the Browns defense, who really isn't supposed to be, and I still don't think it's not like a good defense. Maybe it's playing better than expected. Maybe it's that's where it was in this game, making those impact plays. And I talked about that, even though I picked the Cowboys. I talked about, Myles Garrett he's the key factor of this game. He can make that extra play, that couple sacks for him, a forced fumble, that can change this game, and that end up being the case there. The Cowboys' offensive line really isn't playing that good, and it really is because of the injuries there, so that is unfortunate. But Myles Garrett, I was talking about Myles Jack. I might be mixing up last names there. I was just talking about him with the last game. But Myles Garrett, big-time player, maybe the best pass rusher in football right now. Just making those big-time game-changing plays. So that's where the game kind of got, even though it's an offensive game, the defense of the Browns deserves some credit. There's where the game-changing plays. Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott continue to put the ball on the ground, so that is not good. Zeke's been a little underwhelming. I know they couldn't really run the ball anymore because they were down, but that kind of hurt them in the moment, so that kind of created that. I thought CeeDee Lamb was lights out for the Cowboys. Amari Cooper had his moments. I'm not happy with him in that last play with the interception, even though the game was probably over. But yeah, I like, the Browns are not really we talked about that too. They're not really a come-from-behind team, but they will, with this system, they could allow teams back in the games. We talked about with the Bengals game. I think I talked about before the year with Stefanski's system. It's just that system that you're not really a come-from-behind team, and you can allow teams back. Even though I am thrilled, I am excited about, Stefanski, what he's been doing, this offense in general. But they kind of let the Cowboys back in the game. But you also can't really blame the Browns for it too much. Running the ball was working, continuing to run the ball. Baker played an outstanding game. But he did continue. He missed a couple throws. One to OBJ late. That was kind of crucial. And they kind of allowed the Cowboys back in the game. The defense mainly allowed them back in the game for the Browns. But yeah, it got interesting. Oh, one thing I want to talk about first. Yeah, again, not a huge. I got to look it up to get exact numbers here. Not a huge stats guy, and this is a good example on why I'm not a huge stats guy. You look at the stats. Maybe if you didn't watch this game, you see Baker Mayfield at 165 yards passing, and then Dak Prescott had 502 to 165. The 165 won the game. And maybe if you didn't watch the game, you would be like, why did that happen? How'd that happen? And that's why I'm really not a huge stats guy, is because Baker, plain and simple, just played better than Dak Prescott, even though the yardage won't show it. So that'd be a reason why I'm not all in on the stats. That definitely means something. Definitely good to look at. But yeah, the Cowboys get back in the game there, and it's what they do. You see the highs and the lows for Dak Prescott. Offensive line isn't there. But bottom line is, you can't turn the ball over. He does have to play better. So he was kind of lucky to have several interceptions in the game too. There are other teams with weaker defenses, other quarterbacks with weaker defense, other quarterbacks with even worse offense lines, and not all of them, but some, the great ones get the job done. So I do want to see, I'm not putting this on Dak at all, but I do want to see him, and there's other quarterbacks that are in the same category. They just got to find ways. They got to get the job done here. And, I think Baker and the boys over there found out a way. They ran the ball extremely well. Nick Chubb went down. You see him out 6 weeks. Kareem Hunt, Once again, spectacular. Can't believe that is a second. It's tough to call him a backup running back. He's a top 10 running back. He's one of the better weapons in the game. You've seen him with his running and receiving ability. It's ridiculous that he's a second string running back. It's ridiculous the contract that he just got from the Browns. Somebody else would have paid him a lot more, in my opinion. Cowboys get back in, and then in the game, and they actually cut it to 2 points. Browns get the ball back, and the Browns are in a tough situation. Do you run, and they're around midfield, do you run the ball to, continue to run the clock, make it tougher on the Cowboys, and you have been running the ball pretty well, honestly, or do you pass the ball to put this game away? So Stefanski in a tough role here, a tough position, I suppose. It was honestly, no matter what happened, it was, and I'm impressed with Stefanski calling this in the offense so far. I'm impressed with the offense in general. That end around Odell, which was like over 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, that was a very poor play call in my opinion. Aldon Smith was inches away from bringing this guy down for negative whatever, and then it would have been second and super long. You pretty much would have had no choice but to run the ball, and you wouldn't have got the first down. You would have had to punt, because if you throw in the ball, you're just going to stop the clock like crazy, and it would have been still challenging to get that first. So he almost, with that play call, very close to putting that team in a poor situation, a bad situation, a situation where the Cowboys had a chance to win the game, because or they were down 3 points, so they could have tied the game. But pretty much Odell, scores that play. It works out off of pure athleticism and just being the more athletic guy on the field, being faster on the field. So it worked out, but I strongly disagree with that play call. Other than that, I really love what Stefanski's done. They pretty much put the game away at that point. The extra point is blocked, and they end up getting 2 points anyways. Jalen Smith can scoop up the ball. That was wild as well. The Cowboys drive the field. It felt like, they maybe had a chance if they would have score kicked the onside. They've done it before. And then the interception, they moved the field. Interception, Amari Cooper wasn't looking. He was half-assing it, like he wasn't getting the ball. He has to know there's a chance to get the ball there. I've seen that from Cooper from time to time, and he's a great receiver, but that is my knock on him. I hate seeing that play. So that interception there is on him. It was a really good play by Denzel Ward. I talked a lot about this game. I'm probably missing some things, but Browns are impressive. Again, I talked about with the Colts game. This is a true test for both teams. It is defense versus offense. Are these teams for real? We are going to see, but I am impressed with both teams very much. Saints and the Lions, typical Lions game. They start up, up 14. You see a Drew Brees interception there. In there was tipped. He did have the ball a little low, so maybe it's time to, in the back of your mind, it's not fully time to panic, but in the back of your mind, man, what is going on here? But it ended up being just a typical Lions game with, getting up and then kind of just being outplayed, plain and simple. 35-29, technically the Lions had a chance at the end, but the Saints just completely dominated. Given them the mistakes they made, the sloppy start, the Lions were up 14, factoring that in, 35 straight points. Yeah, they kind of slowed up a little bit on that. You don't really like to see that, but the Saints dominated the Lions here. The score really won't show that. They dominated the Lions. Drew Brees, we've seen him getting the ball downfield. We've seen, maybe he's lost some. And it's crazy that people have been knocking him with not being able to get downfield. I kind of knocked him in the Raiders game a little bit because just simply the ball wasn't coming out right. And again, he wasn't throwing downfield in the Packers game, but that didn't concern me. The ball was coming out right. Pretty much the Packers outdueled the Saints. Aaron Rodgers happened. Aaron Rodgers outdueled Drew Brees there. But why it wasn't really a worry as long as the ball, the things in the Raiders game didn't happen again, is because the Saints been doing this for years and years and years. It's nothing really new. And they'll eventually, and I talked about this, I think the Saints, in my prediction, I think the Saints were going to be able to push the ball downfield a little more than expected. And they did. He got the ball downfield. Maybe a touches came off of velocity-wise, arm strength-wise of Drew Brees, but he still got the beautiful touch pass. We saw that. So they took advantage of just being the better team in this scenario. They got Kamara going. They got Murray going. They got Sanders, Traquan Smith going. They got it going. They got it going here. And came back and won. And, that's just it for the Saints. The defense, again, didn't look too good. It hasn't really looked good this year. They did have some guys out, though, remember, but again, it's something new. I wish they would get a little more pressure. They ended the game. They start finally, I think getting up helped them. They knew the Lions were in a situation where They were going to throw more often, so that helped them get more pressure. But there's times where the pressure has disappeared, the pass rush has disappeared here and there. So that is one thing I want to see more of. But they did get it going at the end of the day. I thought some of those sacks were on Stafford, kind of stepping into him, kind of backtracking. They were on the move when there was still a ball game here. Somewhat earlier, it was a close game, and Stafford just severely underthrew a ball, and it was a pick for, I think it was a Patrick Robinson, I believe. That was a crucial moment in the game, kind of that game-changing moment. So this game is definitely not on Stafford. The Saints were just better. They outplayed them. The Lions' defense just wasn't there. They were getting some pressure early, making some plays early. But Stafford didn't play good in this game. He's stepping in the sacks. Some of these sacks are on him. Just on arm strength, where to go on some of these plays. We know he has the arm strength. He didn't just lose it or anything, I don't think. So that was kind of the disappointing part. But, yeah, that's really my only takeaways. The Saints, the Lions start off good like they normally do, but the Saints pretty much dominated most of this game. Drew Brees looked good. Their playmakers look good. And they're just the better team, just plain and simple. So that's why they won the game. Next, Seahawks and Dolphins. And this is a weird one because we all predicted the Seahawks to win, and I talked about it, and I think the picks video and the score predictions video, this will be closer than you think, and I was kind of on that. But at the same time, I don't know. Watching this game, though, I don't know how it was closer than... it was kind of even though the Seahawks kind of were a little comfortable, they had the edge the whole way. It felt like the Dolphins are in the game, and I kind of predicted that just because I think the Dolphins' offense would keep marching and keep making plays against the Seattle defense. But that really wasn't the case. So in a way, I was right, but I don't think I was like right in the right ways, honestly, because I don't know how this was close because Fitzpatrick wasn't playing a good game. I mean, he was running pretty well. I'm pretty sure he led the team in rushing yards, which is a negative thing. Again, they need a running back pretty badly. They're not in stage one of the rebuild mode. That's the good thing. It's a team of the future. They're building in the right spots. But, that running back gap, it'll make sense because where they're at in that rebuild stage, which is in stage one, they're getting up there, which is they're going to be a really good team of the future. But, yeah, they weren't necessarily playing good. I think Parker made some plays. Preston Williams might have made some plays. But, yeah, they weren't really playing good. Like, that's the thing. Like, I thought the Dolphins played good in this game for the most part offensively and stick with the Seahawks, and that's why I thought it'd be close. But, yeah, it was sloppy play. There was some good moments, like I just mentioned, with the receivers. Fitzpatrick, had some moments where he threw a good ball or a few good balls, but made the mistakes. And it's just the Seahawks really couldn't capitalize. They looked a little sloppy. Russ played good. Didn't play the way he did the last couple weeks, which is okay. You can't expect that every week. Lockett sure didn't help him. He had a bad drop at one point that was deep, and they definitely could have got more points on the board. So I guess, with DK's mistake last week, where he got, cocky a little early there, started celebrating, maybe some points were left on the board. This week, I think with Lockett, with that drop, he kind of disappeared a little bit. DK was great. Chris Carson, I always love Chris Carson. He was a sleeper of mine at Oklahoma State. I've been hyping him up. I think he's a tough dude. He's a tough runner. He really fits the system. And this guy got, that injury that looked, probably worse than it actually was. But then he was expected to miss this week and maybe another week. He ends up playing. And he's just making these short yardage conversions, these tough runs, just big time plays. And then he gets concussed in this game. Well, apparently he wasn't, but you never know with that. They evaluate him. He finally comes back in, and he's just making the tough runs again, breaking tackles. Can you respect the guy any more than Chris Carson? Stuff like that. I gotta respect it so much. What gets you excited about the game? So, credit to Chris Carson there. But, yeah, a little bit of sloppy play in this one. The Seahawks hang on to win. But, yeah, closer than we all thought, as I expected, but not really for the reasons I expected. Maybe a little bit, but, so a weird game there. Seahawks, they're undefeated. They hang on to stay undefeated. I don't really have too many takeaways from that. The Dolphins got to get some run game going. Fitzpatrick's got to be better with the ball. This was the wild game here. The Buccaneers win 38-31. Absolutely wild game. If you watched it at all, the start of the game, the Buccaneers just marched down the field, 7 points instantly. I'm thinking this is going to be an ass beating. This is, the Chargers are too beat up on defense. The Buccaneers playing simple are the better team. This is going to be bad. 7 points, and then The Chargers actually get on the board there, and the Buccaneers get the ball back, and they throw a pick six, and that's kind of the name of the game here. That was kind of the story of this game is crucial momentum plus game-changing turnovers. Right here off the bat, not right off the bat, but pretty close. Brady pick six. Good play there for the Chargers, and then the Chargers just get rolling. That was a momentum swing, a game changer. Herbert is playing, and the Herbert situation is just so interesting to me. And it's tough. People say Herbert is impressing, and it's a weird situation. And I'm not disagreeing that he's impressing, but to me, when I say somebody's impressive, like wow, that guy's impressive. To me, there's some sort of surprise in there. I guess everyone's different the way you define it. And he is impressive in a way. You definitely can argue, the way he's throwing, but there's nothing different. There's nothing surprising to me about Herbert. And this is what I talked about in the pre-draft process, is what we talked about at Oregon. Like, he is going to wow with these deep balls downfield. He's going to get the yardage. He's going to get the stats. He's going to wow in the short game. He's going to wow at every category of passing the ball. He's going to wow with his, his body, his presence. The arm strength is next level. He's going to have the wow moments. He's going to have the good movements. He can move, too. He's not afraid to try to run somebody over. I mean, these are the good things that we saw at Oregon, but then kind of the things that will pop up, like in the end, and this game's really not on Herbert, but in the end, that bad interception where he just lasers it downfield and ends up, and the ball still looks good when it comes out. And he's been unable to win yet. And again, it's not on him. It's not on him, and just him. And I'm not trying to say that. But these turnovers kind of play a part in the end of these games, and it's kind of a reason why he hasn't won. You could say he's just a rookie, and that is true. He's just a rookie. He's just getting going. He's kind of got thrown in by not even planned situation. And would like to see him get better with more reps. And there's a lot to get excited about, but it's just kind of it's the same thing. There's nothing that's throwing me off about Justin Herbert. You're gonna get wild and you're gonna get disappointed all in the same game. So I just wanted to touch on that because it is an interesting situation, because people are kind of those people that are floored by Herbert, and it's impressive and he's good. But in a way where it's nothing, it's a weird prospect. It's a weird guy. You got both there. You got a handful of both. But it's good to see him getting reps. This is fantastic. It's an exciting player. Could be like a Josh Allen, what he's doing right now. So there is definitely room to get excited for, reasons to get excited for the future. But kind of going back to the game here, I want to touch on Herbert. But he's playing lights out. Getting the ball downfield. Buccaneers defense a little disappointing in this game. I still like this defense. You can't base them off one. Here's the thing about the Chargers and Justin Herbert. I feel very strongly about this. Nobody's really talking about this. I always have something that I feel like no one's talking about, that I feel like I'm on to something here. The Chargers are going to sneak away some of these games. They almost did this game. You could argue they should have. And this would have been a little bit of a surprising and a big time win for them. They almost did it against the Chiefs. And it's the same reason, goes into both. They are going to sneak away here and there in this season with games like this. And that is because they're a tough game plan. I think Justin Herbert makes them a tough game plan. Them, in what they're calling, what they're doing. 1 second, it's like, and there's not a whole bunch of film on Herbert. You don't know what to expect mainly. But in the game, 1 second, it's like, all right, here's some small ball. Well, here's some just quick plays. Here's Herbert rolling out, quick throw on the out, quick dump off, slip screen, whatever it is. He's running, and all of a sudden they're unleashing a ball downfield. Like, what is there to expect? I don't know if there is, and it's kind of what's going on with Josh Allen too. There's so much that could happen. There's so much of a variety of things, and it's unpredictable. I'm not a fan of the play decisions or the coaching decisions in the moment sometimes of Anthony Lynn, but there is some good thing with the variety of plays and throwing off a good defense, and that is why the Chargers are a tough game plan. Even though they're not supposed to be this spectacular offense, they are a tough game plan and will sneak some wins like this that they could have had, or the Chiefs that they could have, because of that reason. But the Chargers are still building off the momentum of the Brady pick six. They're making plays on offense, and they're building momentum off that. and they're up 24-7, and they get the ball in their own territory, and Josh Kelly makes a crucial mistake, a must-not fumble situation. Eckler getting hurt kind of hurt them as well. Tough dude as well, because you can see he got hurt kind of mid to late play and still tries to finish the play. And he actually got tackled in a big way too. It was a big hit. So I respect that. You see players take, and you can't blame the guys that get hurt and just they gotta have to give up in the play, but not Eckler. So I respect that, for sure. But yeah, Kelly makes that crucial mistake, and that just is like the Brady pick six that changed momentum. We thought, wow, the Brady Bucks are gonna roll over these Chargers right now. And nope, the pick six changed it. This fumble, instant points for the Bucks going into half. They're only down 10. They are making some big plays. I think people got ahead of themselves. People were smack talking the Bucks, mainly Brady early, because of that pick six. It's a bad play. Things that have popped up here and there. But then Brady really gets rolling against a good defense, but it is beat up. Chris Harris out. And what's all about Melvin Ingram, a guy that I've talked up for so long because he's such an important piece. He makes players around him better. I've been stressing that for a long time. And look at Joey Bosa last year, look at him in the 2 games this year, with and without Melvin Ingram. It's an absurd difference. Joey Bosa was non-existent in this game. Tom Brady didn't get sacked once, which is unacceptable. We see how good and important Melvin Ingram is, which I kind of knew. A lot of us didn't know. But yeah, unacceptable. They're unable to get to Brady, really. And that was a big reason Brady was able to have his beautiful touch passes downfield. That deep ball he still got something on that deep ball, making the big plays. Mike Evans was playing pissed off. He came back from an injury. He was making big plays, and they came back to win this game again. I talked about the Chargers had a chance. Herbert had an interception. It's just rookie moments, but it's Herbert moments. It's something that I think will kind of stick with him throughout his entire career. And that's what I worried about coming out of Oregon, even though there are wow moments. After his freshman year, I'm like, this guy is a future NFL star, but improvements didn't happen. Things kind of stayed the same, but he still has those wow moments. So that's why it's kind of a weird prospect, a weird dude, really. Tom Brady gets the job done here. We've seen 2 game-changing moments, the last one being the difference, Josh Kelly fumble. I guess Herbert's interception could throw in there, but the Bucs already took the lead at that point. So crazy game, wild game, impressive comeback win for the Buccaneers. They got the Bears Thursday night, tough game for them. Ravens and Washington, I don't have too much on this game. Didn't see a whole bunch. It's really not a game that I was really that excited for, but Lamar did his thing, making the big time plays on the ground. We've seen Ingram start with a touchdown, but once again, they didn't run the ball. The running backs a whole bunch. Once again, it feels like Gus Edwards is their better running back, and that could be a knock on the Ravens. J.K. Dobbins was my number 2 running back in the class. He's really good. He's got some potential. So I'm not knocking the talent whatsoever, but it feels like he's their 3rd running back right now. And they even have Justice Hill, who I like a lot. Yeah, he hasn't been playing, but he's a shifty guy. The future very well could have been Gus Edwards and Justice Hill. They would have been just fine. And they have other needs. The Ravens have other needs. You look at receiver, I think Lamar Jackson's interception was not Lamar Jackson's fault. Miles Boykin, who I kind of liked out of Notre Dame, which I still kind of like, but you definitely can get better from. I'm not really sure what he was doing on that play. Kind of just half-assed the route, the break out, and that's kind of been his problem. The break out of the route was pretty poor. Wasn't really a break, kind of rounded it a bit. And that was, my only knock on Miles Boykin coming out, and that kind of showed up there. But really wasn't looking for the ball. That was not Lamar Jackson's fault. Live I said that, and I'm really saying that now. But it really wasn't a problem anyways. They ended up winning the game. Anything else on offense? I don't have Hollywood was pretty solid. They needed another number 1 receiver to pair with Hollywood. Mark Andrews played well. He caught the ball. Unlike last week. Defensively, Marlon Humphrey stood out to me. Patrick Queen was flying around the field. He stood out to me. Matt Judon got 2 sacks. Good to see him on the board. They needed some edge rush going. Was against Washington, though. Haskins didn't really play poorly. He threw the ball pretty well. Statistically, I think he looked pretty good. I don't know the top of my head. You can look it up, but it doesn't matter. He didn't really play bad. I hate that 4th down check down at the end of the game. I was kind of out after that. Antonio Gibson, you see the threat he is that we talked about in the pre-draft process, running back and receiver. He's a big-time threat. Terry McLaurin's been lights out, fantastic. He looked good. I don't really have a whole bunch in this game. The Ravens got comfortable in this game. They took control. Nothing surprising, really. So, that's all I got for that game. Next, the Cardinals and the Panthers. The Cardinals are extremely disappointing right now, and we talk about it every single year. I've talked about it the last couple of weeks. I try to warn people. I try to tell people every single year, not some years, every single year there's those teams that kind of, in a way, could surprise and look good, or maybe not surprise. They look good in the first 2 weeks, and those weeks really don't end up mattering because it's a tough game plan. Weird things happen, and they kind of fall off. And now you question, are the Cardinals one of those teams? They very well might be, based on the way they're playing after the first 2 weeks. There's teams that every single year, it happens every year, there's teams that we for sure know are those teams. The Jaguars this year, teams like that. And there's always teams that are kind of surprisingly those teams that kind of lie to us in the first 2 weeks. It happens every year. The Cardinals kind of are in between those two categories there. Are they pretenders? And I'm not going to say for sure because we're only through 4 weeks, but it kind of looks like at this point, and there are some things that point towards that too. First 2 weeks, I talked about it all offseason. I talked about when they played the 49ers. I think they were a good matchup against the 49ers. 49ers were light years the better team than them last year, but the Cardinals made it a tough game because of matchup reasons. Week 1, it's still fairly a new offense, an explosive offense, a young offense, a fast offense. Now with DeAndre Hopkins, I'm picking the Cardinals in that game for all those reasons I just explained. And then they're just a tough game plan. That's a tough team, one of the tougher teams to game plan, especially early in the season. Now some tape to go off of, some things to go off of here. You could try to make them one-dimensional. Kenyon Drake, they couldn't run the ball. Kenyon Drake just did not have a good game. He just did not have a good game. I think putting that tag on him actually could be a smart thing. It was only a 1-year deal. It could have been a smart thing. They could be on, looking for a running back. They definitely need another receiver. Guys outside Hopkins, and Hopkins wasn't all the way there this week because of injury. Guys outside Hopkins just can't get open against a Panthers secondary. I mean, come on now. That's unacceptable. So they have some needs still, and needs that we thought they maybe, running back and receiver. If I would have said that in the offseason, if I would have told everybody that here on the channel, everybody would have laughed at me. It would have been a ridiculous statement. They need a starting running back. I'm not 100% in that, but I probably. And they need another number one receiver, and especially in this system, for sure. But yeah, Drake was running out of bounds early, going away from contact too early, and then on plays where he had lanes, he was cutting into contact. I don't know if anything drives me nuts more when running backs do that, because it's pretty plain and simple. There was multiple occasions, but there was one. Christian Kirk ended up scoring, I think, the play or two after. But Kenyon Drake was on an outside run, touchdown, right, waltz in the end zone on the outside. He cut inside into the contact. Maybe I'm harsh, but when I see, I could see one moment, and there was multiple moments where I could see one moment like that, and I'm knocking you down. I'm kind of writing you off a little bit. But Drake does have talent, but man. In Murray, again, not a stats guy, but I might have to look at it. Now that I'm thinking about it top of my head, I might have to look up some stats here in this game, because I think he threw the ball a lot based on what I saw, and I don't think he, 31 times for 133 yards, and that's just, I don't think that's kind of unacceptable, but it's not all on Kyler Murray. You know, credit to the Panthers defense. Receivers really weren't getting open. They were made one-dimensional. The Panthers were no longer fearing the run. Because how well they were playing on defense and how poorly the run game, mainly Drake, was playing for the Cardinals. It's just the Cardinals, just plain and simple, did not look like a good team here. They just looked like a bad team. That's what it was. In every category. Murray didn't get his help. He does need to play better. Was pretty darn good on the run. Ran for 78 yards, I'm seeing. Hopkins wasn't fully there, but the other receivers couldn't get open. Defensively, did they get a sack in this game? They didn't sack Teddy Bridgewater one time. They weren't getting after him. Where's Chandler Jones? Where's Devon? Where are these guys? The defense, had pass rush last year, even though it wasn't a very good defense. They added some guys. They're better in the secondary. They're supposed to be better. I wish they would use Simmons in that regard a bit more. I'm worried they're going to ruin Isaiah Simmons. They ruined Hassan Reddick. Totally different. I guess it was a different staff, but I'm a little worried because it's a totally different system on what he was in at Clemson, and they're not even using to his fullest ability either. The fact that they didn't get Bridgewater is bad. They played poor on both sides of the ball. This is very disappointing for the Arizona Cardinals. On the Panthers side, I don't know if I was excited this week on any play than Teddy Bridgewater's run for the touchdown, just juking people out. That is the Teddy Bridgewater I saw at Louisville. That's the Teddy Bridgewater I saw in Minnesota. And coming off a brutal injury and just getting back, I am beyond excited for that. That is big time. He's throwing the ball well. Did have an interception, but throwing the ball very well. The pocket movement, the pocket presence is very good. And the moving downfield too. He can get outside the pocket, run, move downfield like I just said, make people miss. He's very dangerous. He is an extremely smart runner like we saw in Minnesota. Very accurate quarterback for the most part. And adding, like I've been talking about the last couple weeks, even when they've been losing, even when he's been turning the ball over, I've been talking about he's actually added some more of that big play ability to his game. And what an addition Robbie Anderson was. That definitely, because that's a big playability guy. And who knew that Robbie Anderson, Teddy Bridgewater would be the duo? That would be the connection, and it could bring more out of Teddy Bridgewater. So that is big time for them. So I love what I see from the Carolina Panthers. I talked about, they didn't allow Bridgewater to be sacked once. I think a lot of credit goes to Bridgewater actually with his movement, but credit to the offensive line of the Panthers. And then you got to knock the Cardinals for not getting there as well. Mike Davis playing good. They're undefeated without Christian McCaffrey. I mean, obviously they're better with McCaffrey, but they're doing some good things here. And I've been talking about this offseason. I talked about games when they're losing. Panthers might be the team of the future right there with a team like the Bengals or the Dolphins, just based on where they're at, but mainly based on the coaching staff of the Panthers as well. This team is going to be pretty darn impressive in the future. They're impressive right now. With the young guys stepping up with what this coaching staff is doing. Matt Rule, Joe Bray's an excellent coaching staff here. Defensively, on paper they're supposed to be one of the worst defenses in football. They're playing much, much, much better than that. Guys are stepping up at the game plan. Credit the game plan as well here. Derek Brown, a stud on the inside. Another one where the stats won't probably show. There's a lot of interior defensive linemen that make impact that the stats won't show. Maybe it does, but Derek Brown, the disruptor, pro-ready guy, beastly game for him. I think a team like the Lions could be, Jeff Okudah's good, going to be good, but, third overall corner, I talked about pre-draft, talking about again, could regret passing on a guy like Derek Brown. That's an impact player. That's a game changer. They're a disruptor. Very impressed with the Panthers right now. Vikings and Texans, I'm able to wear the Vikings shirt. I don't know what's going on. We're a little see-through here. I'm able to wear the Vikings gear here because we finally got a win. Offense has been pretty impressive, actually, minus the Colts game was a disaster. Turns out the Colts defense is pretty good. Still unacceptable with the Vikings offense in that game. But the Vikings offense, pretty darn impressive in this game. The Texans are, they're very disappointing. I don't really know. I don't know what to do with the Texans. They're kind of like dipping their toe in, even though they're not going to say they are, dipping the toe in the do we rebuild stage in the offseason, but still at the same time, I expect them almost to be better because I thought, the offensive line should improve because it's more of a unit, full year with Tunsil. Some young guys improving. Deshaun Watson still improving. So in general, they will improve there regardless of they lost Hopkins or not. They had David Johnson. That's pretty good, and I do think he is pretty good. But it just has not been the case. And I talked about it on Twitter. I talked about Dak. I think Dak's really good. He makes the big time throws. He has the wild moments. He's going to rack up the yards. He's a good quarterback for sure. Maybe better than good. But offensive line's not helping him, defense is helping, but other quarterbacks kind of find ways if they want to be. And it's tough to find ways. It's tough to kind of execute through it. But the great ones, if you want to be great, kind of find ways. And I kind of put Deshaun Watson, who I love. I've always loved Deshaun Watson. I think he's great. I think he can be great. He has not been anywhere near great yet this year. He doesn't have the help. Look at the other side. Kirk Cousins and Deshaun Watson's a lot better than Kirk Cousins, so I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way. But Kirk Cousins constantly got pressure in his face. He's got an extremely tough task, too. He found a way in this game. He hasn't been finding a way in every game, even though they've been moving the ball. But Deshaun Watson, he missed some throws. Some throws were behind. He dropped the ball. The one sack was because he dropped the ball. Sometimes he does step into sacks. I thought for the most part he had time in this game to throw, and they just couldn't get enough offense going. They were almost fortunate to have 23 points in a way. They did, early they were going 3 and out. Next time they got the ball, 3 and out. The Vikings are scoring. They only have 3 points, and Harrison Smith gets ejected. If I make the rule, that's not an ejection. But with what is going on in the NFL, I agree with it's consistent that he's thrown out of the game, so I can't complain about that. But 2 touchdowns And you see how important Harrison Smith is. Again, I still think he's the best safety in football. He comes out of the game. 2 touchdowns were broken coverages because, and it's not, I don't think it's an opinion. People will say, you're probably right. I think I am right here. 2 coverages are broken and only score touchdowns are only scored because Harrison Smith is out of the game here. So the Texans were kind of able to move the ball because of that, but with the lack of but less pass rush than the Texans have been seeing, they should have been moving the ball. Only 3 points, only 6 points at halftime, I believe it was. That was just very much unacceptable. Not throw at the play calling, not throw at Watson, not throw with really anything there. Receivers were, there was times where they got extreme separation, but there was times they just weren't getting open, specifically in the second half. So I guess missed Hopkins in that regard there. But they were coming from behind, so they couldn't really get David Johnson going, and that could have been a key to this game because I think you can run the Vikings. They have one of the worst interior defensive line units in football, so they couldn't get that going. Again, the Vikings offense played good. Dalvin Cook was lights out. They were hitting Dalvin Cook in the backfield. He was breaking so many tackles. I mean, hitting the hole very hard. You see the speed and the elusiveness after the fact. I mean, it's why he is arguably the best running back in football, one of the best running backs in football there. Until he gets hurt. So hopefully he stays healthy because the guy is electrifying. It was, some runs were just jaw-dropping as well, but the Texans got to be better. I thought Zach Cunningham was kind of flying around the field. I mean, everyone needs to be better, but that was the only guy that really kind of stood out. I mean, J.J. Watt, I expected more out of him this game, but yeah, you can't put too much on one guy, I suppose. But yeah, I saw something that they stacked the box over 40% of the time, and Dalvin Cook was still running on like that, so that's impressive. Thielen was good. Justin Jefferson, again, the real deal. He was lights out, made a crucial play, contested catch there, but made a couple big-time catches, but they were able to move the ball because of that. Kirk played good. There was a couple throws at one point that he could have made. Thielen was wide open for a touchdown. He missed him by this much. Wouldn't have counted anyways because of a holding, but you got to make the throw. The next play, he kind of threw the ball out of bounds there. But other than that, I thought he played a pretty good game. A game I see should play good, so I'm not going to, freak out. Cousins played a good game or anything, overreact or anything. For the Vikings, defense was playing pretty surprisingly well early. Harrison Smith got knocked out, and that was a problem. Aloka was missing coverages there. I don't like that the Vikings kind of let the Texans back in the game. Usually it's because the offensive play calling, they let them back in the game. Maybe they did run a little too much, get a little conservative at times, but I don't blame them at all. The defense kind of just let them back in the game. Zimmer's a great defensive mind, but that fourth and 10, that was a bomb. That was a blown coverage. Loka was supposed to be there. Would have been Harrison Smith. That was a crucial play because the game could have been just over at that point, but it wasn't. They were back in the game and had a chance only because of that play. I'm actually going to put some blame on Mike Zimmer. It looked like cover 2, which cover 2, the safety's got to have halves, deep halves, and they got to get back there. And having that much responsibility on Aloka, with Harrison Smith out of the game was very questionable. I don't like cover 2 even with Harrison Smith in that. Yeah, I guess I do because you don't trust your corner. The corner play's been pretty weak, so you trust the safeties back there more. But given the circumstances, I don't like that call. So the Vikings' talent, the Vikings' playmakers, Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Rudolph showed up at times. Ngakoue made some plays. Harrison Smith was playing good before he got taken out. Kendricks made some plays. Those big-time playmakers, I think having more big-time playmakers, the Texans won the game. Coaching I wasn't really impressed with on either side. And the Texans, I guess, of lacking having those big-time playmakers, which Bill O'Brien's kind of taking away. So what are they doing? They're spending money. They're spending a lot of money, but they're not getting better. It's all over the place. It might be time to move on there. So it's a little disappointing there for sure, to say the least. Vikings get their first win. Oh, but yeah, I forgot to mention that the Texans actually had a chance on that last play. They throw a fade to Will Fuller, and he makes a spectacular one-hand catch, originally called a touchdown. You look at the review, and it's pretty clear. It's still a good play. It's still a really good effort by Fuller, trying to make that play because it was good coverage too. But the ball became loose when it hit the ground. The ball can actually touch the ground if you have firm possession. There was just clearly not firm possession, but almost interesting. They would have had to gone for 2, and we could have had a very interesting game here. It could have been overtime, which with that momentum, Texas could have won in overtime. But almost a really good play there by Will Fuller. I thought he started playing a good game in the second half. The Giants and the Rams. I'm just gonna here's my bottom line, my headline. If you see headlines for games, Rams half-ass a game and still win. That is my headline. They half-assed this game. They still won, and that's a knock on both teams there. There's no way that was Rams full go. They were playing small ball. They weren't throwing the ball downfield. They weren't using Darrell Henderson, who's I think is electrifying running back, a today's style running back. They just weren't going with their normal plays. They were getting fancy here and there, but it was just in the backfield, that type of stuff. They were half-assing this game, just running clock. People were like, how did that game end so early? It's because they ran the shit out of the clock. And it did start before some of those other games too in the late afternoon. But yeah, they kind of half-assed it and still won. That's a knock on. They got the job done, I guess. It's a little bit of a knock on them, but mainly a knock on the Giants that they just can't compete with a team like that. That's really not going all out with their offensive game plan. Credit to the Rams defense. The Giants, man, Daniel Jones. I take pride in my I think that's, we started this channel off the draft. I think if I had to say something I'm best at here, out of the things I do, I think kind of player evaluations coming out of the draft, but guys, watching them in the league as well. And Daniel Jones, for a little bit there, I thought, wow, maybe I was off on that one, because he's made nothing crazy. But made some big plays last year, even though he couldn't take care of the ball. He's a fumbler. I talked about that. Maybe the first half of the Steelers game, I was impressed first half of the Steelers game. But now I'm kind of going back to, no, everything seems to be going according to plan. He's just not playing good ball. He just continues to turn the ball over. He fumbles. He throws the other team. He ran pretty well, I guess, when he escaped. Maybe more of that. It's just not it right now. And sure, he has some more upside, but I just don't think it. Now, those things don't change. I talk about that every week. Those things you can slightly bring them down a little bit. They don't really go away. They don't really change. He'll continue to turn the ball over. I'm going to bash the Giants play calling here. They ran the ball pretty well. Gallman they didn't have a lot of yards really. Maybe as a group sure. But Gallman was running pretty effectively. Daniel Jones, when he ran, it was pretty effective. Freeman was somewhat effective, solid. Deion Lewis was 1 for 10, if I remember correctly. They were in this game. Remember, the Rams were kind of half-assing it. They were kind of letting the Giants stick around. The score really won't show that. Kind of does still. Yeah, because if they scored, they could have went for 2, so they were still in the game. But they could have kept running the ball is my point. You only don't run the ball when you're not in the game. They were still in the game. Daniel Jones was costing you throwing the ball. Just bad all around for the Giants. I think of the defense, even though I held them to 17, I thought it was a little sloppy even. I really think the Rams kind of half-assed the offense game plan. I'm very confident in that. Yeah, not thrilled. I don't know what else to go with that game. It was kind of a lame game. Yeah, that's what I got for that game. We're moving on. Bills, Raiders, I was 1 point off of an exact score prediction here. I predicted 31-23 Bills. Missed extra point. Well, that'll be it. That'll do it. Whereas I'm just impressed with the Bills. I'm still loving watching the Bills. They're still a very good team. Raiders had a tough last 2 games. They didn't play well. But they lost 2 in a row. I think they're a better team than, that label, losing 2 in a row. Bad matchups, like I talked about. Things went to plan in this game, what I expected. Josh Allen was lights out early. A little bit of a scare on that crazy flip pitch to Diggs, which was a spectacular play. Not too many guys can do that. No, not too many guys have the balls to do that. But then it was a little bit of a scare because he got hurt. I worried he did something to his wrist or something. But came back in the game. They kind of got slowed down a little bit after that. But something I noted, but they end up getting the job done because of the better team. They got the better playmakers of the better team. They're better in the matchup as well. And the Raiders are missing some guys. You have to point that out. They are missing some guys there that could have made things interesting. But it felt like even what is that, a 7-point final? I felt like the Bills controlled this game even a little more than that. Diggs, I've always been a Diggs guy. I know everyone's pretty much a Diggs guy. Spectacular. All over the field, doing everything, the routes, the speed, the hand, everything about Diggs' game. Electrifying player, playmaker, that jump ball that Moss he had. That's just one of many plays. If I had to pick who's the best receiver in football right now, The way they're playing right, I'm going to say Stephon Diggs. Perfect pairing with Josh Allen. I hyped that up. I gave the Bills an A for that trade, while some people kind of knocked it for how much they traded. He's well worth it. He's getting better every step of the way. One of the, combining every trait, every part of a receiver's game, he's one of the best in football, and we see that so far. We see it in this game. He also, I talked about in the past that, the Bills receivers look good last year. Guys like John Brown, Cole Beasley, they didn't really look too good in the playoff game last year, but they look good. But I think people were a little too hyped on them. Why? Because they weren't in the right roles. Those aren't receiver 1 and 2. Those are receiver 2 and 3. Adding Diggs gets them that big need that I've been preaching that they need. Receiver 1. Therefore, it makes these guys better. John Brown, Cole Beasley are playing lights out. Mainly Cole Beasley. Even Davis, which is a good pick, good receiver 4, playing lights out because they're in their correct roles. Team's got a game plan for Diggs. So Diggs is being a beast. I'm going to give him praise when he's not even doing anything because of those reasons. So, and people are like, well, the Bills run the ball a lot. They want to run the ball. No, they want to throw the ball more. They want to open things up. I talked about this all offseason. They want to throw the ball more downfield. Get Diggs. Perfect fit. Everything works out. Fantastic trade. They were lights out in this game. Josh Allen, another fantastic game. Cole Beasley was fantastic. Defensively, going back to offense, the Raiders were in a lot of man coverage. It worked against the Saints because the Saints were playing small ball and just what was on the field. No Michael Thomas, and then the Saints. It's not going to work against the Bills. They were playing a lot of man coverage when they played. They played some cover too. I saw that was actually working quite a bit, but they kept going to man coverage specifically on crucial third downs. Which, if it's third and short, anything short yardage or goal line, red zone, you typically do want to do man, but it just wasn't working against the Bills. Why? Because they were too fast. The quarterback's too fast reading everything, but mainly the receiver's just too fast. The receivers are just too fast. Man coverage, you're just going to get beat. If you're played speed-wise, you're just going to get beat. So I disagree with some of the defensive play calling of the Raiders, and credit to the Bills that are taking advantage. Bills defensively, they're giving up some points, but they're a good defense. They're making some plays. And you could say if they didn't make those turnovers, the Raiders very well could have been in the game. That could be true. But I only stress that or talk about that a whole bunch if it was kind of like fluky things. It's just the Bills being a good defense. They're making plays. My guy Quentin Jefferson making that big time play, knocking the ball out and covering it. That's big time. They got a really good rotation of guys across D-line. D-line outside, on the edge. Really good rotation. Josh Norman, first game playing, he made that spectacular punch, that forced fumble, and that was all it wasn't a fluke thing, all on purpose there. So they made the big plays at the right time there. Got that interior pressure on Carr. Made some plays. Want to see the Raiders get healthier. They're still a good team. Wish they could have got Jacobs going a little more, but the Bills did a good job slowing him down and keeping that lead so that to affect that. That's my takeaways there. And we got one more game. Kind of a shit show here, honestly, if I'm being honest. Definitely not impressed with either. The Eagles won. That's good. They made big time plays, big time moments. They were helped out a little bit, but got some of those pass rushes. Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat stepping out making plays. They got those turnovers in the right moments. But neither team played great. If in a way it felt like, I don't want to say the Niners beat the Niners, but Nick Mullins kind of beat the Niners, so he was definitely kind of off. Carson Wentz played good running the ball. He did make some throws here and there that were big, but he still seems off, and he really didn't play a good game. The first interception, he was going in circle. I don't know that's what I question, because I know he has more talent. Like, what is he doing? You have the talent there. That's kind of what it is with him. You're running in circles, just throwing it to Javon Kinlaw, tipped interception. He had a play action early in the play. It was a great play action call. And that's a ball you just throw on a dart, a line, right to the receiver. He waited a little too long to throw it. He threw it very awkwardly with his footwork. It's because he didn't get out there fast enough on the rollout and open up his feet earlier. That's kind of what threw everything off. But he put way too much air on under it, and it was a wobbler. So that's what Baker Mayfield, just an example, is thriving on right now. Plays like that, and he's making those throws. So that's interesting. But he stepped up running, stepped up making some throws, got a little better as the stretch of the game went on, helped them win the game. Miles Sanders really didn't get going either, so that was actually pretty impressive that somewhat one-dimensional at one point, making some plays. Didn't like the plays they were trying to do. It hurts. That kind of backfired. Some bad Kelsey snaps though, which is odd, rare. Fulgham had that crazy, just a somewhat of a no-name receiver. Good throw, good catch, staying in bounds, staying in for a touchdown. Don't know how he did it. So they made There wasn't big plays in this game, really. I mean, Ayuk and Kittle made some big plays on the other side. Then there was some big plays that were the difference. There wasn't some big plays in this game. There wasn't enough from either team, honestly. But I guess those small amount of big plays were the difference there, mainly the interceptions. Kittle was a beast. That first Ayuk score was ridiculous. McKinnon played very well. McKinnon looks really good. Today's style running back. It was sad that we didn't get to see him for 2 years there because he's really good. Really, I don't know how the Niners didn't win this game. Well, I do know. It's because the Mullins turnovers, but they should have won this game. But again, don't want to take any credit away from the Eagles, even though it's very sloppy on their end. They got the job done. Mullins was just bad. That last interception was one of the worst. That's as bad as it can get. Like that's as bad of an interception as it can get. If they would have got that 2-point conversion, they put Beathard in. I still think, even though what was shown on that field, which was the opposite of what I'm about to say, I still think Mullins is better than Beathard. Just wasn't his night. Credit to Shanahan just pulling the trigger. It's not working. Let's put Beathard in. New guy. Credit to him. He worked the field. That's credit to Beathard, too, just getting thrown in there. Worked the field. Looked pretty smooth. Looked pretty good. If they got that 2-point conversion, which a couple things could have happened here. Beathard could have ran it in, I think. I don't mind the throw. Just kind of, he got a little fancy with it. It was kind of like it looked like he was going for a no-look for a second. He ended up looking, but just kind of just get it in there. It's a simple throw, and Kittle could have caught it. It's a very, very tough throw, but Kittle could have caught it just because it's George Kittle. It was possible that it could have happened. So that would have been huge because they may have been able to attempt a field goal to send it to overtime. So that would have been big. And then they go for the Hail Mary. Brandon Graham had a big-time play before that. They go for a Hail Mary that almost just looked like it was going to land on Kittle. Maybe it was just a weird angle. But they had a chance on that Hail Mary there. So the Niners kind of just took the game away from themselves. Mullins a little bit took the game away from themselves. And they still had a chance to come back and win. And that is kind of a knock on the Eagles that, the gifts that you got, you couldn't put the game away. So it's just mainly a knock on both teams here. But there is positive. The Eagles win the game. They clutch up at the right moments. But yeah, two teams I'm not. Well, the Niners, because of injuries, they will get Jimmy G back. But at this particular moment, this particular game, two teams I'm not really thrilled with. But the Eagles are first in their division, which is wild. Yeah, been talking a long time. I'm getting really hungry, so I'm going to wrap this up. We'll be back every Monday with this video. We got power rankings coming up every Tuesday. We got predictions, score predictions. We got you covered. Subscribe, smash that like button, turn notifications on, follow us on Twitter. Would really appreciate all of that. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.